You're listening to a Comics XF podcast.
X-Men. Get it!
Hey everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Battle of the Atom. This is your weekly X-Men podcast where we rank every story from A to Z.
I'm Adam.
And I'm the bad boy of X-Men podcasting, or at least the skin of the bad boy of the X-Men podcasting, currently being inhabited by a werewolf. I'm Zach.
Are you sure you're not the shapeshifter Mystique just disguised as the werewolf inside of the skin of Zach?
I don't think so. Here's the thing I know about Mystique. Blue. I'm not blue. I'm peachy colored.
Yeah.
Someone
well, you're
call
silver.
it pale.
You're silver.
Well, the skin. We're talking about the skin.
Yeah.
Now, could Mystique into a werewolf? It depends on the writer.
Yeah, sometimes she shapeshifts into like weird creature type stuff, and I don't understand that. I don't like when she has like wings and stuff like that.
I understand the appeal of someone saying, well, why couldn't this person do all of these things? And guys, the secret answer, the real answer, is because the kid who said, I have the power to have all the powers, they were the kid you didn't want to play with. Like, you don't want, say, Maggot to be an Omega level mutant. You want him to do dumb stuff like eat with his slugs. In the same way, what you want from Mystique, and what we all want from Mystique, is to be reading a comic and someone goes through a lot of identity verification so that you're 100% sure they're that person, and then it's revealed after they get the important documents that it's actually Mystique.
Yes.
That's what we want in a comic.
Yeah, we don't need her transforming into like a winged gargoyle or something, you know? Like
I don't need her to have like wings and tentacle arms and all of that.
Yeah, that doesn't work for me.
I need her to look like a different person and then be like, surprise, I got you.
Yeah, hey. Yeah, we're talking about Mystique this week. We're talking about wanting wives back. We're talking about getting Mystique.
Wanting wives back. That's interesting. That's an interesting thing, Adam.
Oh.
Mystique does yell, I want my wife back. Often.
Yes.
At least once in a comic, but it feels like often.
That's true. You know,
it's also very funny just to imagine Mystique yelling, my wife, like she's a Borat. And we made that joke a lot in the year of our Lord 2019.
I mean,
we in fact did not stop making that exact joke to the point it wasn't funny for most other people.
I would say Borat has not aged well. However, it's still funny to hear his voice saying,
no,
my wife.
Hold on. We need to be clear. It's not that Borat didn't age well. Borat is exactly what it was when it came out. And we knew that's why people were laughing at Borat. Borat was also in on it.
Sure.
What's your tolerance for that amount of in on it? I think that's a fair question.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Hey, speaking of
Borat?
Yelling, no. Well, maybe, but probably not.
No, I don't think so.
Of yelling my wife,
yes.
I hear that there's something that you may want to yell at our listeners on that front.
Well, I don't want to yell it at the listeners, but I do think listeners who have listened to this show for a while know that I'm in a relationship with Dr. Anna Papard, and we did just get engaged. So thought we'd share that with the listening public.
Listen, as your friend, I am very excited. As
Yay.
Anna's friend, I'm concerned for her, and we've been texting, and I'm there if she needs me. But no, that's no, you guys, you crazy kids. I'm so over the moon happy.
Thank you, Zach.
And that's sincerity right there.
Yeah. No, I mean, we got a good thing going. Neither one of us even has to wear a gold mask or anything, you know? It's great.
Hold on, Destiny doesn't have to wear that mask. Destiny wants to. That's the thing about Destiny. She absolutely just wants to. Destiny causes problems for no reason. And
remember when Destiny just walked around with a knife in her head for a while? Like, just had a knife in her head?
Hold on. I'm trying to remember the order of operations of Fall of the Mutants. Was the knife in the mask... Did Spiral put the knife in the mask while it was on Destiny or while the mask was on Dazzler?
I honestly don't remember. I just remember Destiny
It,
having a knife in her head.
it is the Destiny hat, and there's a
Yeah.
knife in it, but
Yeah.
I know Dazzler is in that for the majority of Fall of the
Oh
Mutants.
boy, so weird.
None of that's relevant in
No,
this.
no,
In so
it's
much
not.
as Destiny does exist and she is an important part of one of these comics. But do you know what else is an important part of one of these comics?
Well, maybe not in the comic, but we do need to talk about who requested this episode, right?
We do. That's Patreon supporter Miguel Sanchez. Miguel went over to patreon.com/Battle of the Atom, reached deep down into their hearts and pocketbooks, and tossed a couple of coins right into our shape-shifting coffers. And if you want to be like Miguel, you can go over to patreon.com/Battle of the Atom. And guess what? No tariffs on that. That's
Timely
100%
humor.
timely.
Jesus Christ.
Adam,
Oh,
all I'm saying, I am not a wealthy man, but I have a retirement account.
do you? Do any of us now? I don't
mean,
know.
I needed to know how mad to be, so I did look at my retirement account.
Sure.
And when I knew it was bad because I know business.
Mm-hmm.
But when I can put a personal, immediate number to it, not just a forward-looking number, this should not be the last straw for anybody. Because, that bridge should have been burnt
There are so many straws.
9-ish years ago. You should have had that decision pretty well made for you mentally.
Yeah.
But,
come on.
folks,
Ugh.
I don't know. Anyway,
our prices haven't changed. We're still
Yet.
$5.
Our prices haven't changed since, I don't know, it was so low that people broke the system for a little bit and we had to change it.
It's okay.
But those great folks at that $5 level, you get an entire bespoke episode built around one of your suggestions. Maybe, like Miguel, you suggest that we talk about X-Men Volume 5, Number 6. This is called The Oracle. It's written by Head of X Jonathan Hickman, penciled by Matteo Buffagini.
I believe it's Buffagni.
Oh, I don't speak French.
I think it's Italian. Isn't it?
It's all Europe to me. It's all hold on. What's the difference between France and Europe? And I'm only going to know based on how much they are tariffed.
He is definitely Italian. I just looked it up. Matteo Buffagni. And boy, can Buffagni draw really well. Doing the
Really
pencils and
can.
inks here with colors by Sonny Go.
Really can. I enjoy this comic. So this is Dawn of X. This is still early on. This is actually 2020 when this came out. So we were saying My Wife a lot later. But what this is a story that opens up with Mystique and Destiny sitting on a beach, looking out at the ocean, and Destiny saying, "Hey, I'm going to tell you something, and it isn't going to sound believable, but I promise every word of it is true." And I like to think Mystique's just sitting there like, "Irene,
This again.
I know you tell the future. Like, why do you have to be a weirdo about it?"
Well, she has to be a little bit more specific because a lot of times in Destiny's history, she will say things that don't necessarily come true. Her precog ability is debatable, I would say.
It almost always comes true from a certain point of view. as if you were a Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes, but in this case, she is predicting Krakoa and is also predicting that she'll be dead by Krakoa. And Mystique's like, "Oh, I don't like this future. This doesn't sound great."
I'm going to be honest. I completely forgot that Mystique's next line of dialogue after that is, "I don't know why you're talking to me like this, Irene."
Yeah.
which I read in a different cadence and tone than I said it, but also Jonathan Hickman's on the wavelength. He gets it. He's like, "Yeah, no, she's kind of annoying."
Yeah, and this is setting up the central conflict, which will come to a head later in the Inferno arc, which is that basically Professor X and Magneto are going to use Mystique as much as they want to do whatever espionage they think needs to get done with the lure of resurrecting Destiny, which they're refusing to do because they have an unwritten agreement that no precogs can be resurrected with Moira.
And there's an interesting nuance that at the time people either forgot or were ignorant of, and that's that Charles and Magneto agree that there shouldn't be any precogs for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
The reason's that Moira just doesn't like Destiny. The reason is 100% that Moira's petty. Because Destiny burnt her once.
Yeah, Destiny burned her to death in a past life. So, of course, she doesn't want Destiny to come back. And Moira has multiple reasons why she might not want precogs.
Speaking of, I did read at one point last year the 15 Lives of Henry August.
Oh, yeah. The book heavily inspired.
I wouldn't say heavily inspired. I'm going to be honest.
Somewhat inspired?
Have you read the book?
I have not.
It's a book that generally also deals with someone who continually resurrects and continually lives new lives.
Sure.
Which I'm going to say is not the newest concept in the world. And then there is a conflict with another person who is living these lives, which is different than the Mystique Destiny or the Destiny Moira conflict. It's fine. It's different. I did read that.
Okay.
It's okay. It wasn't a bad book. I thought it was a little overly long, personally.
Oh, see, I thought you brought it up because you were going to make some sort of connection.
No, just that.
Just that you read it.
just that I read it. I did the reading finally.
Good for you.
I was like, maybe on the surface these things sound alike, but also like, wasn't that original of an idea to begin with? It's just execution at certain points, people. Anyway, speaking of execution,
yes,
they use Mystique to execute their plans of planting a Krakoan gate on Mother Mold.
Yes, so a lot of really great world building here. We're seeing inside the workshops of Dr. Devo. We're seeing the development of Nimrod. We're seeing glimpses of Sentinel City. Lots of little like breadcrumbs here to get you very excited about whatever the heck Orcus is planning behind the scenes. And, you know, what's great about this conflict between Mystique, Xavier, and Eric is that, you know, Mystique is like, okay, I did what you said. Like, what is the big deal? Just, I want my wife back. And that classic scene of her yelling that is just, it's so classic. It's such an important moment to solidify. I think what's the publishing relationship to this and Destiny and Mystique's first kiss in that?
That's a great question. Would you like to know what
I
that
would like
relationship
to know.
is?
Yeah.
Because I remember distinctly. This was the first time that they had been confirmed to be in like a marriage before any of this.
Okay.
Now, to be clear, Jonathan Hickman is on record saying, "Oh, was it? Did they seriously not? We all knew."
Yeah, I mean,
I wasn't doing anything here. I thought we had all just like, all of us had been like, yeah, that's her wife.
Yeah, we had read Claremont X-Men and then we had read subsequent other stories, and like it was very, I mean, I'd never thought that this was subtextual, you know, like
No.
It is in the text. However, to make it explicit in calling Destiny her wife.
Yes. There is value in naming things.
Yes. There's huge value, and by solidifying that, you know, and just making it really crystal clear, it ups the ante for what she's asking for as well, because it's a modest ask given what Krakoa is and the Five are capable of.
Well, and Magneto and Xavier are being total jerks about it.
Yes.
Here's the thing.
Yes.
And this is they are not treating Mystique with any sympathy.
No.
Which is an interesting play here. Like it shows that it's a Jonathan Hickman comic. So every Jonathan Hickman comic is really about the hubris of great men. That's every gosh darn one of them. Hey, I'm a few issues behind on Ultimate Spider-Man, but guess how that one's going to turn out, people? Hey, it's going to be the hubris of one of these great friends coming into conflict with the heroism of the other. That's how that story's going to end. I don't know what to tell you. It's Green Goblin's going to be bad because he's Green Goblin. Like that's just what he's doing. That's what all of these stories always are. And if it wasn't so consistently relevant to our day-to-day lives, maybe that would get tiring. But Hickman hits you over the head and says, how many times do I need to teach you this lesson?
Well, and we got a great reminder this past week that people are very nostalgic for Krakoa in the announcement of Marvel Rivals Season 2, which was completely Hellfire Gala themed and came with a press release that was basically glowing, calling the creators of the Krakoan era geniuses, et cetera, et cetera. But, one of the things that I think always gets glossed over is that we don't necessarily just love this era because it was some sort of like utopia. It's because it has this inherent built-in drama because of how there's built-in corruption and there's built-in like malice and machinations happening behind the scenes that make it really interesting.
If you were going to keep Krakoa around, and I feel like they could have up until the last minute done this. I think they really could. The question is not, destroy it and that was a worthless exercise. The question could be, okay, so either we have this deeply flawed society, deeply broken society, or we have to rebuild this new one on the foundation of a broken one.
Mm-hmm.
How do you build a nation? Like that, Krakoa was about how do you build a nation, and Krakoa was a realist tale. It's, well, you build it with the blood and sweat of others and with manipulation and betrayal and stuff that is not perfectly good.
Weird. Sounds like a nation I'm familiar with.
Well,
we might live in.
listen. But like there's inherent tension in that. If you keep it around, okay, then how do you make those things? Like, how do you make a nation and not do those things? How do you not fall into those sins? Like, there are still stories that you could tell, which, again, it's a story that we never got. So in our minds, it's perfect,
right?
But like,
yeah, there's
so many narrative things in this particular story that are great hooks.
Mm-hmm. Well, talk about the hook on the end, which is the end of what Destiny is saying to Mystique, which is, if they don't bring us back, if they won't resurrect me, you got to burn it to the ground. And that is how the issue ends. One of the best little zingers at the end of one of these issues, because you're just waiting for it, because they're not going to bring Destiny back, and Mystique is capable of burning it to the ground.
Mystique's beautiful ability is that if she's not going to get what she wants, she is selfish. And that is something that, like, we talked about it when we talked about the Nightcrawler retcon and her not eating the baby off of a waterfall anymore.
Mm-hmm.
One, I don't like that because I think it's funny that she throws a baby off a waterfall. Like, that's inherently an incredibly funny thing to happen. I also, to me, Mystique is a very self-centered person, and she works really well, especially as an antagonist, when she has this clear motivation of, I'll hang out, I'll do generally good things, but I'm doing them for me. And if this stops being a deal that works for me, I will screw over you and everyone else.
Yeah.
It's a wild card element that's really fun.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's really fun. And that gets, I'm going to sound like a Knoll from that one issue, but that really gets in the way when we're using these as good, pure representation in our comics. Like, well, look at this beautiful lesbian couple. It's like, yeah, well, Mystique is terrible still. Like, she can still be terrible.
Yeah. We need them to be both.
Comics let her be terrible, and I've generally appreciated that. It's how people talk about things outside of comics.
All right, so I think this is a really good issue. I think we should try and rank it on our big old list.
That's the thing. We have a big list on this podcast.
Yes.
We have, in fact, been ranking every X-Men story from best to worst. And we've done that 1,020 times.
That's crazy.
The best X-Men story, as we all know, is the House of X Powers of 10.
Yep.
Never gonna be beaten. It's so good. It's so good. I'm not worried about anything beating it in the
Not in the near future, no.
Yeah, we're fine. 250 is the quest for magic from new X-Men, excuse me. 500 is that time that Cable went to Peru and did a coup. 750 is Deadpool Volume 4, Want You to Want Me. I have no recollection of that. Is that the Mercury one?
I don't know.
Yeah. Number 1000 is the X-Men 100th Anniversary Special. Not very good.
Nope. You hate
Weird,
it.
though.
I don't remember liking it.
I don't remember why I hate it. That's
It's
one of those comics that, like, I know I really disliked, but I want to go back to remember.
No, you don't.
Yeah,
You're
I
just
mean,
gonna make
well,
yourself
it's a
angry.
one shot. One shots, it's easier to do. The worst X-Men comic of all time is 2099, World of Tomorrow. Hey, this is pretty good. It's not the best of the Hickman X-Men.
Well, we have obviously Hoxpox at number 1. We have the Crucible at number 12. I would say it's not meeting either
Crucible,
of those.
Really unfortunate for this comic that
And-
it comes between the Crucible and, like, is it the Vault? Or no, is it Davos?
Well, Davos is number 4, is issue number 4, and that is at 84 on our list.
Yeah, Davos is better. Davos is better.
I do think that the global economics issue is better. And then the next one that we have down the list is, I believe, the Empire crossover, which is which is 10 and 11, and that is at 119. I would say this is better than that.
This is better than that, man. It's just like that Hickman run. Dude knows how to put together an issue of comics.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say this is probably top 100.
100 is okay. 100 is Planet X.
Yep. Think this is better than that.
I mean, I'm thinking here. Okay, at 103 is the Angel and Mystique, like, issues of Marvel Fanfare.
Yep.
Marvel Fanfare 40. This is better than that, so I'm feeling good about.
I would agree with that.
Where we're around there.
Yep. Tough competition though here, right? 100 is Planet X. 101 is the Legion arc of New Mutants, and 102 is the Jungle Adventure. That's steep competition right there.
This is steep, but 99 is Examinations, and I think this is a better one shot than Examinations. Like, this is the problem with this one shot is it is a little light in terms of content.
Yeah.
But it is not light in informing us about what Mystique's character is going to be for Krakoa. Like,
so
it lays out her, and it puts a piece on the board that is ready to attack, and you just don't know when it's going to happen. And there's narrative tension there. Like, this sets up a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. Just looking up the list, and I'm finding other things that I think this is better than.
This is better than Tom Taylor's X-Men Red at 90.
Yeah.
It just is.
I mean, I may just want to slot this right below Global and Economics, because below that is Astonishing X-Men 62 to 65, Dark Iceman.
That Dark Iceman's got that Gabriel Hernandez Walter art.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Like, it's got that Walter art.
Yeah. It's better than that Runaways arc.
This is better than that Runaways arc at 86. This is, let's put it right below Dark Iceman, right above Runaways Come Away With Me.
Great. So this is going to be our new 86 X-Men Volume 5, number 6. It's called The Oracle, but we're calling it I Want My Wife Back.
I laugh every time. Every time it's funny. No one has ever made a Borat voice and it not been funny. I'm pretty sure.
I'm going to disagree with that. I think
my wife.
Lots of times that people do that and it's not funny.
Very nice. How much?
So our second story of the day is a Jason Aaron treat. This is Wolverine 62 to 65. What volume of Wolverine is this?
Volume 3.
Volume 3.
No, this is Volume 3. Yes, because Volume 3 is the one that starts around 2000, 2001, maybe even 2002, I forget. But pretty much lasts until the end of Old Man Logan.
Right. Well, Old Man Logan, I think, starts right after this.
It does.
Wolverine Volume 3, 62 to 65. Get Mystique.
This is Aaron's first real stuff at Marvel. Like, he'd done a couple of shorts here, and then he was going and doing some other stuff. 2008, I think he would have already have done Scalped by now.
Okay.
So, he's established.
Yeah, people know
at
who
this
he
point,
is.
but not a huge name. Actually, I want to confirm that.
So while you're confirming that, we have Jason Aaron writing this, and penciling and inking is Ron Garney, and colors by Jason Keith.
Yeah, it would have Scalped would have already started by now. So
Yeah.
yes. This is a story that I have constantly heard people be like, oh no, this is an underrated one. You have to check this out. And we've talked on this show before. I am very hot and cold on Jason Aaron.
Where did you come down on this one? Because I thought it was kind of fun.
On this particular one, I think there is a lot of good in it, but I also think that it is a very slight comic.
Okay. Here, let's just give a quick rundown of what this is. So Mystique has betrayed the X-Men yet again after Messiah Complex.
Okay, I want to pause right there.
Yes. No one should be surprised by this.
This comes to a really interesting thing in terms of how the character is positioned and the character's relationship is with the X-Men specifically in a way that I don't get.
Okay, please.
So, Mystique betrays the X-Men during the Mike Carey run.
Yep.
And says in Messiah Complex, he's like, surprise. And no one's surprised. We were all expecting it. However, even like after this, Cyclops is like, well, she keeps betraying us. When have the X-Men ever trusted Mystique before this point? Yes, she was on X Factor for a hot minute, but she was like not trusted on X Factor. She also was constantly planning on betraying people. They had to put parameters around her and Sabretooth so that they wouldn't betray people. That's what they were doing. Beyond that,
Zach, you're not wrong. Well, here's what I will say. I think that Cyclops is so offended by this that he's like, enough. Like, I gave Rogue a long leash with this, this team of hers, and that has backfired. Wolverine, can you please just go kill Mystique? And I didn't ask you to do this, but you know what I'm asking you to do, right? And Wolverine's like, yeah, sure. I hate her too.
To be clear, this is X-Force era Cyclops.
Yes.
He is doing this pretty frequently.
Yes.
We also get flashbacks as we deepen the Mystique and Wolverine relationship, where we find out that back in, Spanish War, Civil War era. What year is that supposed to be? Yeah, 1921. So this is past the Spanish Civil War. Or the Mexicans. 1921. Hold on. I mixed up Spanish Civil War and the Mexican Texas War for Texas independence or whatever. Spanish American War or whatever it was.
Spanish Civil War is the 1930s, I believe.
Yes. The one that Wolverine was also in. He's been in too many wars. Anyway,
Yes.
No, he's just in Mexico at this point.
Yeah, we start with kind of a cowboy vignette of them being maybe potentially lined up to be executed.
This is like Zorro vibes.
Yeah, but
old California. Yeah.
They escape, and Mystique has this band of sort of carny, like street hustlers, and they're going to rob a bank. And the story culminates with, spoiler alert, them being betrayed. And it sure looks like Mystique has betrayed them, but it actually turns out that Wolverine was the one that betrayed them. And that part of the story, I think, works pretty well. I think that's pretty interesting, and I like the two interacting in the past. It's kind of fun. This present day story where Wolverine is hunting down Mystique is a little more uneven, especially because the first issue of it involves Mystique framing Wolverine for stabbing an Afghan woman in cold blood and continuing to kill innocent people who he thinks are Mystique but isn't. And then Mystique blows up a mosque. I mean, this is not like good imagery. I that part I really was like, oh, Jason Aaron, we're playing with fire here.
It's 2008. He knows what he's doing.
He does know exactly what he's doing.
And I have full understanding of this, that like he's doing this to be like divisive. Like that's what's happening right now is that everyone's talking about the green zone and what was it the push or whatever that they were doing where they were like right around this time Bush was, or right before this, Bush was the surge. It was the surge in Afghanistan and Iraq to deal with insurgency. But also the imagery is a little weird, and there is still a vibe of, hey, this is how we were treating like pretty much every person he meets in Afghanistan is a terrorist.
Well,
And that's
the reality is not that's not the reality, you know, but it's using that kind of preconception in a way that is, I would say, uncomfortable.
He does car bomb himself, which
yeah, he does. He does want Mystique to think, which why Mystique would think he was dead for exploding
any reason.
himself. But the reason he does it is not because he wants Mystique to think he's dead. He wants to be able to get his body into the green zone because Mystique, this is the part that worked for me. Mystique is impersonating I believe it's a general or a senator. I forget who's in
It's
there.
It's a senator.
And Wolverine car bombs himself so that his charred corpse will be brought into this facility, to be examined, and then he obviously will go after Mystique. Now, their fight culminates in like a no holds barred. She's naked. He's like,
Okay.
flesh is coming off of him, and they're just like a whole issue of blah. We're trying to kill each other until Wolverine is basically like, I've had enough. I've stabbed you enough times that you should bleed to death. I'm going to leave you here with a gun in the middle of the desert. Do it yourself. I'm bored. I'm going home.
Which is terrible planning on his part.
Well, of course she's going to survive.
There's a couple of things that I think are weird about this. One, I know that we had like all the X-Men movies where she was fighting in the nude, and that's what this is very obviously homaging and all this stuff. It is weird that they're like, and Mystique's going to be naked for no reason during this. Like, that's a thing that you probably wouldn't do in comics today.
Probably not. At the same time, she's also kind of getting down to, you don't really see anything, right? This is a comic for teenagers still. So
it's just doing the whole, hey, sexy lady in this comic.
Yes.
Vibe.
Yes. But it's implied that she's sort of like, you know, just getting down to the most basic essence of what she's all about. And I don't know. I have to say, regardless of like how successful this is, and the Afghan stuff really does kind of like put you off to begin with. I do find this to be an entertaining story, especially the bank robbery thing. I think that works pretty well.
I really do think it's going to depend on how you feel about the bank robbery story and how that lies out. Because I have a general boredom with Wolverine has met this character in the past stories.
Sure.
So that may not have hit as well for me.
I think it works because at the end, Mystique is like, you're a hypocrite. Like, you're coming after me because I'm betraying. And she's like, you've betrayed so many people in your life. Why are you like any different from me? And the backstory really does serve to help prove her point.
Okay, but to me, that is very much why doesn't Batman just buy crime? Like, Wolverine, have you known that you have done some bad things too? Like, it's just like we've been down that road.
I guess I just still think it's a pretty tight story.
I think that these kind of stories are the hardest ones for me because I do think on a technical level, there is a reason why Jason Aaron became such a big name in comics. I don't always agree with what Jason Aaron wants in a comic, but generally I understand what he's trying to do, even if it doesn't vibe with me.
Hey, he's not trying to kill God here. You know, it's just like kind of a simple two-parter here. And I just also want to point out, I think another thing that really works here is Ron Garney's art. I think Garney does a really nice job in kind of doing an Andy Kubert like flavored thing here that works in both time periods. So I enjoyed this.
Garney stuff works well, but like there's other Ron Garney art from after this
Mhm.
that I really like. Even his stuff with Aaron, like he did Men of Wrath with Jason Aaron, and that almost has more of a Frank Miller
Okay.
vibe to it. And he did that, and then he did actually present to pop culture right now, the Charles Soule Daredevil run. He does a lot of stuff in that
Nice.
that I think actually works like super well. Like it's not the Ron Garney that I want. Like I know he evolves as an artist from here, and he evolves in a direction that I like to see more of.
Okay. That's
But
fair.
generally,
I just think here he's doing a very nice job.
I think that's the thing. I think this is a very well crafted story, and maybe that's why I'm more critical of things that almost get there for me, but like have just a few things holding it back. Like there's Aaron's playing with the stuff, a lot of stuff. Like even the terrorists that are in here, there is a long conversation with them saying, "Yeah, okay, you're American, whatever. They call me a terrorist now. Fine. They gave me these weapons. Like I don't."
Yeah, they make the connection to, actually giving them the weapons to fight against the Russians. We were freedom fighters. Now we're this, but we're fighting the same war, et cetera, et cetera.
It's a smarter comic. It's a smarter comic than most comics that are out there. And I get why this put Jason Aaron on a lot of people's maps.
Sure.
It has a few bugbears for me that just like don't get it all the way there, but I can appreciate what it is.
Yeah.
Well,
let's try and rank it. I'm really curious to see where you would put it because I think I'm hotter on it than you are. We did say that Old Man Logan does come immediately after this, and that is at where is no, that's not right. It's all the way down at 401. I think Old Man Logan is better than this.
I think Old Man Logan is better than this. I also think that time Wolverine fought a sentient pile of cocaine is better than this, which is right above Old Man Logan, which tells you a lot about us.
Yeah. But this is better than a lot of other Wolverine stuff.
It is better than. I'm trying to think of Jason Aaron Wolverine. I think this is just about my favorite of his solo Wolverine stuff. I'm not as hot on it as I am some of his other stuff. Like we've talked about Wolverine Goes to Hell and all that. The comic where Wolverine Goes to Hell, and I think this is better than that.
I would say this is better than Weapons of Vengeance at 463.
Okay. How do you feel about it compared to Wolverine and the X-Men 37 and 39? That's after Battle of the Atom, where him and Cyclops have a beer, and also those kids show up. That's early Pepe Larraz art.
Yeah, I don't know. That's not the camping trip issue, right? That's in the Savage Land.
No. That's when there's two undercover Shield agent kids that go to the school, and then Wolverine and Cyclops fight Sentinels in a Shield base.
Yeah. I'd say this is about on par with that. Like, I honestly think this is a little bit better.
I think it is. I think it is better than Nation X from Uncanny X-Men. That's at 250 or 450.
Yeah.
I don't think this is better than Domino 1 through 6 from the Gail Simone, David Bowdy on Domino.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But I think this is probably better than All New X-Men 31 to 36, which is the arc where they meet Miles Morales.
Yeah, probably. This is like, it's at 447, and this is a good, solid comic. Like,
yes.
Here's the thing. If every comic was base level this, I think we'd be fine. I think if everything could be at that base level, we'd be good.
Yeah, like, if this next arc of comics were on this base level of Get Mystique, I might have been okay with it. But let's talk about Dream's End, Zach.
Dream's End is something else.
It sure is.
Dream's End is a 4-part event that comes at the end of the year 2000. This is by Chris Claremont, Salvador Larroca, Robert Weinberg, and Michael Ryan on Cable, Scott Lobdell and Thomas Dernick on Bishop, The Last X-Man, and Chris Claremont, Lionel Francis Yu, and Brett Booth on X-Men. So by this point, Claremont has been fired from X-Men and Uncanny X-Men. Like, they are moving away. They're saying, hey, we need to do something different. The movie has just come out, and surprising everyone, it's a hit.
Yes.
And you youngins have no idea. Adam, you remember how big that movie was, right?
It was huge.
It was huge. You have no idea. With your, oh, those Fox movies, they weren't that big. Shut up. They were huge. And Marvel was doing stuff with, what are their names again? I know the Goth and
What are you talking about?
the stuff Claremont was doing in Revolution's era. What was it? What are their names? They're not the Externals. They're some other.
The Neo?
The Neo, that's the one.
Yeah.
Like, that's what X-Men comics were, and they said, oh, this is not.
Yeah, well, this isn't lining up.
So Claremont is fired from these books, moved into his Extreme stuff, and they have a transitional period right now. Claremont's still obviously doing some stuff on it, but Scott Lobdell is jumping in to pick up some slack. Like, it's a mess.
Yes.
It is a absolute mess of an era. And this is part of the cleanup of, okay, wait, how do we turn off the 90s and tie in to this movie that prominently features Senator Robert Kelly?
Yep.
And how do we make this more like the movie so that we set things up for when Morrison's coming in a few months?
And of course, the way to really draw in new readers is to cross over between 4 different books, including 2 solos series, and have no artistic consistency whatsoever, and to make the plot of the story as confusing as it could possibly be. That sounds like a really smart publishing move, don't you think, Zach?
Look, there's a reason why Marvel almost went under. People are like, well, Marvel went chapter 11. No, chapter 11 wasn't the problem. They could have gotten out of that. They then made all the worst decisions after the chapter 11 for a while. I'll say this, I think this actually opens up pretty decently. You have 2 parallel storylines that are going on, 2 parallel conflicts. One of them, Senator Kelly is running for president.
Yes.
On an anti-mutant stance.
It
Like, that's his
seems
platform.
that way until we get to the end of his speech, which is interrupted. And it does seem like he's actually turning a corner on this issue. However, he is also being attacked in what seems to be an assassination attempt.
It is very Days of Future Past.
Yes.
At the same time, you have Mystique and Sabretooth and Toad, you know, the Brotherhood characters from that movie.
Yep.
Going and attacking Muir Island. Now, I want to talk about Sabretooth for 1 second.
Please do.
He's giving Tyler Mane. He is.
Mhm.
He doesn't have the mustache, but he is in that mold. Toad is just looking like Ray Park. Like, if they didn't say it was Toad, no one would know.
No, he doesn't even look like anything like Toad.
No. Sabretooth does say, you know how it is, pal. You kill one billionaire, you've killed them all. And I'm challenging him on that notion. I think, Sabretooth, there's work yet to be done. And you, in your terrible tribal tattoo,
so
you could do this for us, buddy.
Yeah. So the dual plots are, 1, to get members of the Brotherhood close enough to Robert Kelly to actually get Pyro close enough to him so that Pyro, who is dying of the legacy virus, can kind of present a sympathetic case to him, right? But this is all a distraction for what's really happening, which is that they are going to Muir Island with the intent of killing Moira so that she cannot distribute her cure for what they have developed, which is a legacy virus for all non-mutant humans.
Hey, this is not the plot of the X-Men movie.
It is also way too complicated, and yet what happens over the course of the 4 issues is that the Claremont stuff is the one that's actually dealing with this. You get to the Cable and the Bishop issues, which are both terrible, and they just sort of bifurcate different parts of this into like little action vignettes for entire 20 something pages. It's bad. It's very, very bad.
Like Bishop, I'm sure you, Adam, being a Bishop connoisseur,
Sure,
are
sure.
aware of this.
Yes, yes.
But Bishop the Last X-Men was not written by Scott Lobdell until this issue.
Yeah.
That was doing a completely unrelated story.
But yeah, I mean, it really just seems like this stuff is coming out of nowhere.
I think it was coming out of nowhere. I think they needed a book to fill it, and they said, "Well, we were canceling Bishop, but we could do another issue of that."
I mean, there's a whole bit in here where Cable time travels to see young Rogue and is upset that he can't save her, and he looks like a freaking mountain of a man. It's insane how big he is.
I like that, actually. I think that's funny. There's a Claremont's trying to develop like Rogue as one of the characters here, because Rogue's leading one of the X-Men teams at this point.
Right.
Rogue has the relationship with Mystique, so he's wanting to build that tension, and that subplot never goes anywhere. Like, that doesn't work. Rogue gets slightly new powers. It's a mess.
Yep.
What's also a mess is the Brotherhood's assassination / sympathy thing attempt on Senator Kelly. Hey, here's the Brotherhood. It's Blob.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
He's in Days of Future Past.
Yep.
Avalanche, also in Days of Future Past. Pyro, who I'm very unclear on his role on this, because he just kind of appears at the end of this.
Yes.
And then Post.
Weird, right? That Post is here?
From Onslaught?
Yeah.
Post?
The Herald of Onslaught? I don't know. Not sure. Couldn't tell you.
They fight. Cable fights people. Also, Lady Mastermind is here, but for like one panel. It's weird that she's here.
Well, she's there because she's casting the psychic spell that it's allowing them to make it look like they're attacking when really they're not. It's very confusing. And then the whole final issue, which is X-Men.
Hold on. We got to talk about the one thing that happens in Cable, and that's that Pyro he attacks Post, who's going to kill Senator Kelly, and Pyro's like, actually, no, make it end. All of the hatred and death, make it end. I am dying from the legacy virus, and I die right here.
Yeah.
It's a bad page.
It
Pyro
is.
Comes out of nowhere to die.
It's not good. It's not good. And what's even worse is that X-Men 108, which has half an issue worth of absolutely terrible art by Brett Booth.
Never got better. It's weird that he never got better.
Like,
in fact, I think he got worse over time.
Like, if folks don't remember, there was a moment when Brett Booth was hired to come back and do some issues of X-Men Legends, and we were vocal in that we didn't want to support that comic because of some things that Brett Booth had done and said. And it's very reassuring to know that this person is not only filled with some hate in his heart, and God knows I hope he's changed his opinions on some of these things, but this artwork, I have never seen a scrawnier and more long giraffe-necked Wolverine or Colossus or Cable who doesn't have wrists. The misunderstanding of basic anatomy that this guy has is just absolutely terrible. I was so grateful when I turned a page and it was back to Linneo Francis Yu. You have no idea.
The Brett Booth stuff is rough. It is rough. It's just the art's bad. You're dealing with the fallout from the last couple of issues where the Brotherhood has attacked Muir Island, mostly off page, which is a weird choice.
Yes. They
set off a bomb that I guess happens in the first issue, but the way those pages are laid out, it's unclear if that's a bomb that's happening at Senator Kelly's event or at Muir Island.
Yeah.
Which, bad storytelling.
And they're racing to get Moira back so that
because Moira blew up on Muir Island.
Right. So she's deeply injured. They're trying to get her back. Bishop's trying. He's like, we don't have enough fuel. We're going through storms. I don't know what we're going to do. And eventually we have this scene where Xavier and Jean are trying to do a psychic rescue. I actually kind of like the way that Yu draws that very, very well.
It's the Linneo Francis Yu. He's pretty good.
Moira, does Moira make it? I don't even remember. But the more important,
this is where Moira dies.
Yeah,
this is where Moira
dies. But also, just as importantly, Robert Kelly comes out and says such nice glowing things that we've got to turn around human and mutant relations, that one of his followers decides, yeah, this is no good, and shoots him before
Race
Cable can
traitor,
save him.
you lied to us. I, in theory, like the idea of a story where Robert Kelly gets over his fear and some of his stuff being, I'm not saying the racism is right. I'm saying that I can see after his wife is killed in a mutant attack, like after he had finally like started to come around and then his wife is killed in a mutant attack, I can see him being like, actually, no, these people are dangerous.
Yeah.
I can see his perspective on that. I think the challenge is that you get the turnaround in like 3 pages worth of comic of actually, I'm not going to be bad and I'm going to completely, days before the election, change my entire political position on my largest issue. And then one of his people rallying for him saying, actually, you're bad. I'm going to shoot you now. Because now I'm more racist than you. And it's
very heavy-handed. And it doesn't help that, as heavy-handed as it is, this story is told so sloppily across these 4 issues. So this is really messy, and I would argue pretty bad, even if it has some interesting underpinnings that could make a good comic.
I think the Claremont issues have the DNA of a good comic.
Yeah.
It is mostly there and then doesn't work. The fact that Moira dies in this and it's a complete afterthought is insane to me.
Yeah.
Like, and I know Moira wasn't really around in comics all that much. Like, she had been shunted off to Excalibur, and even then, that comic had ended 3 or 4 years before this, and in the end, she was kind of in and out of that book. But, like, it's weird how all of this is laid out. She dies, Kelly dies, and nothing has happened. That's the thing. This comic ends, and nothing has changed for the X-Men from the start to the finish. Besides, these 2 people are now dead.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like it wants to suggest that the stakes, are completely different, and it really doesn't feel that way at all. So,
and yet, I will say,
yeah,
this is not the worst event of this era of X-Men.
No.
Of this couple month to 2 year period.
Yeah.
There's about to be Eve of Destruction, which is worse than this.
It's way worse. It's way worse. So, Zach, you mentioned the X-Men movies. I would like to start our conversation about ranking this down at 788. We have the X-Men 2 prequel, Nightcrawler.
That Nightcrawler one's better.
I think so too.
We have not covered, and this is an episode that I know we have to do at some point, but we've not covered like the adaptation of, I guess the only one they did a full did they do an adaptation of the first X-Men movie? I know they did prequels.
I'm pretty sure they did.
I think they did an adaptation of it.
We've only done X-Men the movie special #1 from Wizards of the Coast, which is not an adaptation of the movie.
No, that's an adaptation of the trading card game, roughly based on the movie.
Right.
That involves Marrow.
So weird.
That game rules, actually. We should play it sometime.
Okay.
I have cards, Adam.
Let's make it
Next
happen.
time I'm in Jersey. No, we're not going to learn how to play this. That's insane. That's an insane person thing to do. This is probably better than that. No. Okay, hold on. Where do we have Eve of Destruction's way lower than this, right?
Yeah. It's way lower. Is this better or worse than Poptopia at 806?
It's worse than that. I heard Sugarcane's back.
Sugarcane did appear in Concert of Champions, which we reviewed for Comics XF this past week. Not a great comic, by the way, but it was fun to see that she was there.
That's great.
One panel.
Adam.
Yes.
Adam, you'll be happy to know this. I have stopped reading comics for a little bit. I'm giving myself a break. Give
yourself that break, Zach.
And I went through with it this week. I was like, I don't need to read this.
Yeah, fair.
What else do we got? Is this better or worse? This is worse than Ultimate War at 831. 900. What's at 900? Blood Brothers is at 900. Blood Brothers is better than this, man.
Okay.
It's got J.H. Williams art. That's got Nate Gray and Cable doing friggin' Dragon Ball stuff.
This
That's
is-
got Ness in it. We all love Ness.
Is this better or worse than Brotherhood at 910?
Worse than Brotherhood.
Okay.
This is worse than Brotherhood.
Okay.
This is worse than Mystique throwing a baby off of a waterfall
I would agree.
at 9:15. Oh man.
I guess I was more invested in Wolverine 88 where he fights Deadpool at 917, but it's not. I mean, we're like there.
Hold on, because all of these comics are bad, and we're just trying to remember how bad each individual one is, Adam.
Yeah,
That's
like
the
we're
problem.
down to 923 Onslaught.
Is this better or worse than the Crimson Pirates at 9:57? That was same year.
I would say this is better than that.
Okay, we had to find the floor.
Yeah.
This is not as good as X-Men Black Sun,
Okay.
and I would say not as good as Excalibur Forging the Sword. That's Excalibur Volume 2.
Yeah. Is it more comprehensible than at 950 the Fabian Nicieza X-Men Forever?
It's worse than that because X-Men Forever, for all of its many flaws, does have the Juggernaut stuff, which I think is so funny.
Mhm.
That Juggernaut stuff is funny. That he's just like, everyone gets adventures and he's like, oh, I spent most of my life stuck in a hole.
This is better than the...
Much like Orion North.
All right, so we said this is better than Crimson Pirates, right?
Yeah.
All right, so we're getting there. We promise, folks.
This is worse than The Shattering.
But it's better than
At
Marvel
951.
Superheroes Special 6 to 8 with the Roy Thomas Aussie X-Men story, I think.
Yes, but let's call it worse than Prelude to Perdition. Do you remember anything about Prelude to Perdition? Because I don't.
I
I don't
don't.
even know what video game that was a tie-in to.
No. So this is our new 953 Dreams End. Can't recommend it, folks. Sorry.
Why was Post in it?
Dude,
Who wants Post?
I couldn't even tell you if legitimately Post was there or if Lady Mystique just made, not Lady Mystique, Lady Mastermind made people think that Post was there. Like, it's unclear.
He was there.
Sure.
He has to have been there.
I don't know.
Hey, you know that Post, of all the characters, Post just hasn't shown up since.
That's fine with
this.
me. It's a stupid character.
Technically, there was a appearance in Dark X-Men the beginning, but that was like a flashback thing.
Okay. Sure.
And I think Mimic was it was just a flashback.
Hmm.
I think it was a flashback to this. Anyway, no one did Post even get an action figure? Because he feels like a character that was designed to get an action
I
figure.
think it's too late for an action figure.
Because Onslaught would have been like, he comes out in 96.
Okay.
96 they were still doing that because Spat and Gavel come out in 98.
Oh, that's true.
Man.
X-Men action figure Post? I don't think so.
Because he feels like he was designed to be an action figure.
Yeah, I guess. If you just want like a guy with rocks all over, that's not the thing. He just looks terrible.
They did. They absolutely wanted that.
No,
They do have
I'm
X-Men
looking this
Battle
up.
Brigade Post-Apocalypse Beast, which I had not seen. That's a
Whoa,
good one.
That's fun.
No, it seems that Post has never gotten an action figure,
Yeah.
which is so sad for Post.
That's fine.
And no one else.
That's fine. No one needs it.
Do you know what people do need
For
for this episode to end?
Well, yeah, but support the show, folks. Go over to that patreon.com.
That's what people like us need, Adam.
Oh,
That's not really people. That's you and I.
yeah, but if people do, then they can get their own episode just like this one.
That is a fun benefit that people get. If you want to be like Patreon supporter Miguel Sanchez, you can go over to patreon.com/battle of the atom, reach deep down into your hearts and pocketbooks and toss a couple coins right into our coffers. It's great. We have exciting things going on. You get episodes early. We're working on some new stuff, maybe. We'll figure out what we do. But that'll be next week. But Miguel, again, thank you so much. This was fun. We got to talk about some good stuff. Adam, what do you got going on today?
Well, folks, I mentioned before, Comics XF, we're done with X-Man Hunt coverage, but Austin and I actually found an issue of Gail Simone's Uncanny that we enjoyed. So go check that review
Love
out.
that for you.
We also covered Concert of Champions with Stephanie Burt and Latanya Pennington. So that's another fun review you can check out. The bigger one that I just want to start plugging, and I'll mention for the next like 2 or maybe 3 episodes is depending on when they're coming out, is that at the end of April 26th and 27th, the Comics XF crew that exists in New Jersey, and there are a few of us, we are going to be at Super Jersey Comic Expo in Jackson, New Jersey. That's April 26th and 27th. So if you want to come by and say hello, I know we are going to have a table. I know we are going to be selling copies of the brand new Comics XF zine and may have a lot of other goodies. So if you're in the tri-state area or like on the East Coast and you would like to go to a super fun event, that is the Super Jersey Comics Expo on April 26th and 27th.
That's cool. I'm not going to be there.
No, I know that, but well, we should let our listeners know that Zach is not going to be there.
We should, which is really a benefit for everybody.
I don't know
involved.
about that.
Adam's going to be there.
But yes,
in Adam,
I should be there,
Adam-
barring anything. You know, getting in the
Adam's
way.
the one of us that shouldn't be doing radio. That's the thing.
Stop it. You can always follow on social, Adam Rec on Blue Sky and Instagram. Zach, what are we doing next week?
Next week, we're talking about the headmaster. That is, of course, Magneto, the guy who runs the Xavier Institute. We all know that.
Love that guy.
He's great. I mean, the murders, questionable.
Maybe,
But
yeah.
generally, he tries to run a school.
He does.
He has no experience and no reason to be doing it. But we love Michael Xavier. Until then, folks, this has been Balion. We hope you survived the experience.
Get it!